In Montgomery County, restaurant servers and bartenders currently receive $4 per hour before tips. But now there is a county bill that proposes to pay these employees the full minimum wage. County Councilman Will Jawando introduced the bill last month with Kristen Mink as the co-sponsor. Jawando says that workers deserve to be paid a fair wage. Supporters say that workers will get the fair wage and patrons will still tip them. Opponents say that they like the current system the way it is and are likely to make less in tips if the bill passes. A hearing was held last Tuesday. Workers opposing and supporting the bill filled the room wearing pink shirts that said "Our Fair Wage" and green shirts with the slogan "Save Our Tips." Maricé, do you think this is time well spent by the County Council to make a change in the current wage system?
Excellent question. I wouldn't frame it in that way, but I think it's important to look at how the bill would treat the different sizes of the small businesses. Namely, if the restaurant has more than 51, the minimum wage would be $16.70. If the small business has more than 50 employees, then it would be $15. And then if it's 10 or more, then it'd be $14.50. That said, we understand that there have been other jurisdictions where they're getting rid of the tipped the tipped type of wages. And we're still learning. We're still trying to figure out, what makes the most sense. But for the most part, if we have more Montgomery County residents living off of these wages, absolutely, I think it's time to look at it. But also understand that we have small businesses that are also struggling. So there's going to be a creative way to be able to legislate so that we're not putting small businesses out of business, but also not creating classes of poverty in our county.
Stacey, will restaurant owners be able to survive a change to the current tip policies?
No, not very well, Laurie. And Maricé, I disagree with you in that I think that the learning curve has been established already, and we're looking at other jurisdictions, particularly in Washington, D.C., and this policy is not working. In fact, yesterday I spoke to Jeff Dawson, who's the owner of 9 bars and restaurants in Washington, D.C. He's been doing business there for over 30 years. And he said it's really had a negative impact on him, on his businesses. And so from henceforth, he's not opening any more restaurants in Washington, D.C. He's going to be going to Northern Virginia and is not casting an eye towards Maryland because of what's going on here. What happens in a restaurant is transactional. It is a sales, okay? It's commission sales. And so these servers are paid a commission based upon their performance. So they have to be detail oriented. They have to be able to hustle. They need to know how to sell the menu. And then they make more money by upselling, whether it's appetizers, liquor, desserts. And so by giving them a minimum wage, you de-incentivize them, and they might as well, if they're just getting that amount of money, be as motivated to work as a receptionist, answering phones and passing out a bathroom key. It's not a good idea. It's going to hurt the restaurant industry if it passes. And what's behind this is unionization. The unions came in from California to help in Washington, D.C., and there is no doubt in my mind that if they get this passed, then the next step will be from the progressive to try to unionize.
And I believe that unions do represent the best interest of the workers. So absolutely, I think when it comes to protecting the middle class and trying to make sure that all workers are at least getting some kind of increase in their wages, the average American worker has not seen an increase in the last 40 years in terms of their wages.
That doesn't mean that the restaurant workers should be a protected class, Maricé. I work in real estate sales. And so if you're making $16.70 an hour, that averages out to nearly $35,000 a year. I can't go to my broker and say, I demand that you pay me that minimum wage before I sell any houses. It just doesn't work that way. If you're in a sales business, you hustle.
The concept of a protected class, that's a constitutional legal concept. That's not what we're dealing with here. If anything, the way that restaurants are run in this country is a national issue that, the National Restaurant Association has lobbied for decades for the current status that we're living in. So it's the American way is not, and if you look at other countries, it's not really something that's commonplace. And a lot of times, it just reinforces, again, the classist way that we have been able to exploit low-skilled workers in this country. So I disagree, but I think this is what the conversation is about.
Sure, no, and I think that that feeds into the tropes that came out during the debate in Washington, D.C., that this was about slavery, that they were being treated like slaves. People choose to work in the restaurants, and they choose to work as hard as they want to earn the tips. So I have a tip for all the voters out there. And if you don't like this and you don't want to be served up a cold plate of collectivism every time you end up going to fast casual dining instead of a fine restaurant, start voting Republican.
And I wonder if Will Jawando or Kristen Mink were ever food servers, because if they were, I'm not sure they would be sponsoring such a bill. Like I was a waitress and a bar, and I was I bussed tables when I was in college, and I earned more than three times the triple times the minimum wage. We're just working at a family restaurant, so I just don't think you would make that much money if you went to the other system. But we don't have time to go further on this. I think we had some good discussion. So let's move on to the next topic.